everybody, Mark again here, WeatherMan Plus. Now I'm showing so far for our tropics that we have a potential storm coming our way. And the latest model guidance, according to just GFS seeing it so extreme, has been a bit concerning. So I'm going to show you the latest updates as well as what we can expect. Now, as of right now, of what's going on in our tropics, you can see according to the Euro as well as the GFS, they are about identically the same. We have Georgette weakening in the Eastern Pacific. We have Frank that's going to go up to the Eastern Pacific, a little northern. It is a hurricane now. It will weaken down and go away. The only difference between the two is that Euro shows a little more high pressure building in the Atlantic and going further into the Gulf of Mexico, where GFS shows it a little bit weaker. And as we go into a little bit further into the beginning of August, which actually starts tomorrow, that the high pressure is going to start retracting back a little further east and allow these systems to swing further either into our Gulf or the southeast of the U.S. Now, I wanted to wait for some more updates before I make this video so we can compare and contrast of what is trending according to what's going on in the tropics. Now, just to start off, National Hurricane Center, our next 5 days, we have nothing expected. As you can see with National Hurricane Center, next 72 hours, we do have multiple waves passing through, but they are staying still southerly and going towards maybe the southwestern side of the Caribbean and maybe a little bit of the southern Bay of Campeche as all this energy winds into the Pacific. And you can also see we have another upper level low that is traveling a little bit further off our MDR. And the next wave coming off is the one that's in question because it's traveling further north as well. And that's according to Euro and GFS. Now, even though the last previous runs and the cyclone locations from the GFS is still showing a potential Gulf storm, when you look at a potential velocity anomaly, according to the GFS, you can see we have something coming around the 4th through the 7th, and it is getting some strength on it. But you see how it's a little further eastern. So this right here, according to what the Euro sees as well, will more likely be towards the Bahamas, the southeast of the U.S., and maybe strengthen up, maybe get front induced as it goes around the high pressure in the Atlantic and maybe skim the Carolinas as it swings around. But you can also see that the tropics are starting to wake up. Now, usually we go on an uptick as we go in through the beginning of August. And you can see with the GFS that we are around the 10th through the 15th, right around perfect timing of when we get our average Atlantic storms, that we're getting some strength off the MDR. There is some dust in the MDR, and we're getting some strength around the Gulf of Mexico, maybe the Western Caribbean, around that time. So things are starting to shift around. And when you look at the lift or the sinking air, according to the Euro, the charts are all over the place. So first of all, the next 5 to 10 days, we do have some lift moving through, and that wave that's predicted to go all the way to the southeastern of the U.S., maybe by the Bahamas, the Euro is showing it very weak, while we get something into the Eastern Pacific, and that is seen also by NASA satellite. But after that, right around the 10th, just like GFS is showing that we're going to be some strong lift coming off the MDR, but the Euro is showing that it's going to meet a lot of sinking air. But when you look at Climate Prediction Center and look at their chances for a potential velocity anomaly, you can see that according to the CFS, the Climate Forecast System, that we are getting some neutral as well as some lift in our Central America and through our Bay of Campeche, Western Caribbean, by the time we get to the beginning of August. And it's going to flow through nice and strong by the time we get to the 14th. But once again, if you look at the long range of it, you can see that it shows that we actually have sinking air coming all the way to the beginning of September, just like I just showed you on the Euro. The sinking air is coming all the way to September, but it's showing there's a pocket of some lift, some neutral and some lift that is passing through before that. And this is actually hard to believe because right around this time, we started going on a uptick and we started getting some lift, and it is predicted to be above average season. So would this be the outlier at this time? Because when you check the empirical wave propagation according to the Euro, you can see a whole different scenario. You see we do have some neutral and some lift coming all the way in the beginning of August and through our Central America, just like the CFS is seeing. But instead of getting all the sinking air after that, it's showing we're going to start going through a strong phase of some lift all the way right on time as we go into the beginning of August, all the way through late August. So instead of starting late in late August, the empirical wave over on Climate Prediction Center is showing that we're going to start having lift instead of sinking air. But at the same time, when it shows that we're going to have lift and the sinking air is going to be leaving in September on the Climate Prediction Center, it is showing that we're going to have sinking air moving in instead of the lift in the beginning of September, and we're going to have rising air until then. So it is different on multiple locations that you look for this information. So the way I can take it is take it with a grain of salt according to what's going on with the lift and the sinking air that is going through our MDR, through our Caribbean for our hurricane season. Let's take this a few days at a time because I believe this will turn like a switch. So when you look at the average of the velocity potential according to the Euro in a 5-day forecast from August 2nd all the way to August 7th, you can see the R showing that we are going to get some lift around the Central American gyre and spread out into the Eastern Pacific, also a little bit of Eastern Caribbean, and into South America. And this is where we're seeing all this wave that's moving through at that time. So that part is believable, as well as a lot of sinking air coming after that or a lot of lift. It's just too far to be sure. Euro has been going back and forth in multiple ensembles in multiple locations. I really don't find that very informative at this time. It is going against every piece of information that's showing that we are actually going into an uptick instead of more sinking air all the way till September. Because normally around this time, and they did predict above average season for our hurricane season, as we go from August 1st all the way to the 20th, there is a big uptick in tropical storms and potential hurricanes coming our way, with our peak of our season being right at the beginning of September. So it's more believable, according to the Climate Prediction Center, that we're going to be in a lot of lift in the beginning of September rather than getting a lot of sinking air. So the Euro is all over the place. So we definitely have to take this just a few days at a time. Now, let me show you the updates of what's going on and what the GFS sees and what the changes are. As of the 18Z late last night, it showed around August 10th that we started getting this anomaly pushing through and going north from the Central American gyre. And it does actually meet up with a cold front and break into two pieces. And that is a picture that I put on my community tab for y'all to see. This actually gets down to a 938 category 4 very strong major hurricane coming through. So as we look 5 days away, you can see we have all this energy according to the GFS. I'll show you the Euro as well. That passes through the Central American gyre. And this is exactly what the Euro showed, where we have some lift coming in all the way to the beginning of August. Now, GFS shows that there is going to be some cyclones forming up into the Eastern Pacific, but it also showed that some of this energy is going to pop away and start heading north into our Gulf of Mexico. Now, you can also see multiple things happening here. Not only the formation of a potential storm in our Gulf of Mexico, but you can see we start getting a cold front that comes down, and that's what makes this storm change direction. A cold front comes down, whops it, moves it to the west because everything is still pushing to the west with the dust that's still moving through the Caribbean, guys. And it strengthens up, breaks into two parts, and one goes around the high pressure and swings around to the southeast. Now, the part about swinging around to the southeast, I'm showing also with the Euro that is true. However, this big old storm right here has changed so many times since then. But as you can also see from this shot right around August 10th, that we do get a cold front coming through the south and the southeast of the U.S., and that is what deterred that so far. So as you look with the update from the AO, the Arctic Oscillation, see when we do get these cold fronts, you'll see right around August 8th through the possible 9th or 10th, GFS does show that we do get a cold front that comes through, and now it's showing that it's going to come through, it's going to lift and come in deeper a little bit later, like around the 15th. And you can see the previous run showed that this cold front came all the way through around that time. That's why you saw that on the 18Z. The 6Z shows something else. But just to be well-rounded, you can see here with the long range for the Euro, the EPS, that it also shows that we have some Arctic air coming in all the way from the 9th, all the way, possibly all the way to the 15th. And the previous run with this white one, you can see that it actually took it deeper and stronger into our country. So we do have a cold front coming. Whether or not it's going to play a factor of deterring this storm, that's a different scenario. So as we take a look and see what the actual outcome would be with that system, you check with the 18Z on that nasty run I just showed you. You see we started getting around August 7th, August 8th, we started getting a wave that comes through our Western Caribbean, pops up at the last minute, and starts strengthening and goes either towards Texas, or over here you can see it does swandle around the high pressure and goes out into the Atlantic, which is the most likely outcome actually. Or it could go towards the northern Gulf of Mexico. You can see over here also another one going towards Louisiana and another one going towards Texas. But if you look at this controlled member up, which is up here in the corner, you can see the most likely outcome just on that run with that information that would not happen. There could be some upper level lows that could be swinging around, but you notice the high pressure is retreating back to the east, but it's not showing that storm could form up. It could get maybe a front induced upper level low, maybe even a surface low close to home. So we still need to watch this, but it's showing that big storm would have never happened anyway. So as we look at the next run, 5 days, it still confirms that we have all this energy coming through the Central American gyre, still something forming up in the Eastern Pacific. But once we get around the 9th and the 10th, it's still showing that wave could make a northern path because of high pressure retreating back, and that would steer it a little more this direction than all the way out here into the western Gulf of Mexico or even the Pacific. But it is showing it a lot weaker, but it is showing it again going to the western Gulf of Mexico, not close as strong as what it showed on the 18Z, as well as that cold front that's coming down around the same time. So the ensembles, you can see you started getting something around the 10th, coming through Central America, maybe even make it to the Bay of Campeche, something possibly strengthening up, Western Caribbean. But as you keep on going, you see it shows potentials that it could strengthen up, go towards Louisiana or Texas, curving around that high pressure, causing potential problems. As well as down here, a little bit later, it could form up on the western side of the Gulf of Mexico. And this has been a steady pattern that has been showing. So all this lift, all this energy is coming through. Yesterday, the 12Z showed Eastern Pacific, and maybe this system could form up something into the western Gulf of Mexico. Very weak, if anything. Then when you look at the 18Z, it showed both of them as well, but it showed that big monster hurricane going into the Gulf of Mexico. But when you look at the 0Z, you can see it shrunk down immediately to pretty much nothing, still showing 2 cyclones. And then when you look at the 6Z this morning, it just totally got rid of it to where that's pretty much not going to happen. It's going to stay in the Eastern Pacific. So let's take a look at the potential cyclone locations. First, the 0Z, and if you've never been there before, the 0Z and the 12Z is the best data you can get for this model guidance. That's the one time they put all these balloons up and gets the best weather information. So the 0Z showed right around August 9th, we do get some kind of lift going through the Western Caribbean, and a little rogue wave could go through the Bahamas, go around this high pressure. But it shows still potential to go into our Gulf of Mexico, being potential storms, still making a little bit of a western push, and possibly some really strong outcomes coming out of this system. And the very next run, the 6Z, shows the same thing. August 9th, we start getting something around the Western Caribbean, and it still shows potentials to go into our Gulf of Mexico, even shows some strong potentials going to the Western Gulf of Mexico. So it is seeing there is some energy passing through, and that's a possibility. But when you check with the SpaghettiOs, according to the Euro, you can see right around August 10th that you get multiple possible locations coming in. Something could form up real quick in the Northern Gulf, most likely be front induced. But this next wave is more likely going to spin around this high pressure, and instead of going into Gulf, it's going to come more like this direction and form up somewhere over there. So when you follow the latest run according to the GFS, we're looking at the 6Z, you can see right around August 6th that you do get a Central American gyre, you get some rotation and something into the Pacific. But instead of taking that northern turn into the Gulf of Mexico, it stays to the eastern Pacific, and that's what Climate Prediction Center has been seeing. But also right around August 10th through the 12th that we get a potential upper level low, surface low forming right around the southeast because this high pressure is swinging them this way now. It's starting to retract back, and it swings it into the Atlantic and strengthens out into the Atlantic. Now, at the same time, with the euro, according to the 0Z, right around August 6th, you see we do get that lift right around Central American gyre. We get some in the Eastern Pacific. Euro is shown as very weak, but we do have a wave, a very weak wave with some lift that's going to move northern through the Caribbean, and it is going to make its way towards the southeast of the U.S. and start strengthening up at the last minute. And you can see this is trying to look for a tropical depression. According to the Euro, next 5 days, everything's going to come through the Central American gyre, go out through the Eastern Pacific, more than likely outcome. But after that, as we go into August 7th through the 10th, the more likely outcome that we do get some lift passing through the Northern Caribbean, going through the Bahamas. And in 10 days, it could be about the Bahamas and going through the southeast of the U.S. And that is what the Euro is seeing. And when you check higher up in the altitude to see what's going on with our relative humidity, you can see that we do right around August 6th do have this very weak precipitation, but we do have some wave that is moving through the Northern Caribbean, and it does make it in the same direction that the Euro is seeing. At the same time, you can start to see that we do get a cold front that is coming down right around that time. So whether that strengthens up at the last second, whether this goes around this high pressure and it is no worries to anybody, whether this cold front hits it and wobbles it to the west, is still a little too far to be sure. But signs are showing that we have something coming this direction, not necessarily in the Gulf. So when you check your 500 millibar pressure for cyclonic vorticity, according to the Euro, right here around August 6th, that we do get a wave moving a little further northern, and it does get some vorticity at the last second as it heads towards the Bahamas, going towards Florida. Probably going to zing around in this direction. It's too far to be sure, but it is showing a last minute spin up and strengthening. You can see this with the 6Z on the GFS. You have your lift coming through Central American gyre, going through the Eastern Pacific, but you also have that wave that's moving through, and it shows it actually strengthens up just like Euro is seeing. But a cold front comes through and knocks it to the east, northeast. At the same time, it helps it strengthen and get a front-induced low strengthening out. So it is showing that there will be a cold front coming down, but whether this upper level low, this tropical wave, the surface low is further north, further south, or further east is still too far to be sure. So I will keep my eye on this. It seems like things are changing pretty quickly. Matter of fact, when you look at the 45-day from the Euro, more than likely outcome is that we do get something in the Pacific, but you can see we also get these northern waves that is starting to travel to the southeast of the U.S. and strengthening up at the last minute, as well as one that could strengthen up and just zero around this high pressure. No worries at all. But this one right here that carries around and strengthens at the last minute right around August 10th, the historical beginning of our Atlantic hurricane season. That is what the Euro is seeing. And that's the average. These other anomalies show that it could go out into the Atlantic. Some show also the Pacific. It could also go into the Gulf of Mexico and strengthen up. So there's multiple ensembles that is seeing this potential change happening real soon. Even though this one shows something crazy in the Gulf of Mexico, our average would be this right here. The high pressure is starting to retract back to the east in the Atlantic, and these waves are going to start traveling a little further north and maybe curving into the southeast of the U.S. and strengthening up. So I will stay updated on this. It is looking like a change is starting to happen as far as the lift in the sinking air. From the Euro, I would take that literally with a grain of salt right now. One of the ensembles even shows what the GFS sees, that it could form up late into the Caribbean and curve around and go towards Florida very strong, as well as that second one could strengthen up and just slide into the northern Atlantic. But once again, this is the most likely outcome. So what the GFS is seeing, I would agree more with the Euro. The GFS is just still on a vacation. It's still hoping for these big storms to come, and it's not really reliable. Now, so far, the 12Z with the GFS is taking a while to load up. It is confirming by August 6th that these will be going through Central America and going through the Eastern Pacific, as well as what's coming on the 10th a little bit later is still unknown. It hasn't loaded up that much yet, but it's not showing very promising at the moment. I will stay updated on this. It looks like this is all changing on the fly very fast, and this is usually where we get our uptick. So I will stay on this very close for you guys. Psalm 11. In the Lord put I my trust. How say ye to my soul, flee as a bird to your mountain? For lo, the wicked bend their bow, they make ready their arrow upon the string, that they may privately shoot at the upright in heart. If the foundations be destroyed, what can the righteous do? The Lord is in his holy temple. The Lord's throne is in heaven. His eyes behold, his eyelids try the children of men. The Lord trieth the righteous, but the wicked in him that loveth violence, his soul hateth. Upon the wicked he shall rain snares, fire, and brimstone, and an horrible tempest. This shall be the portion of their cup. For the righteous, Lord loveth righteousness. His countenance doeth behold the upright. Amen. Have a great Sunday, everybody. God bless you and your families. Hope you have a very blessed Sunday. I will keep you updated on what's going on in the tropics. Believe that. I don't want anything sneaky, little sneaky deaky storms coming up close. We don't need that. So I will stay on it for you. And all power, all glory does go to Yahweh, God of Jacob, our Father. Amen. Hallelujah. Have a great day, everybody.